Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the first episode of the 2022 edition of The Nightlife. Yes, we are back again for another jam-packed year ahead in football in the Gold Coast Knights this year. And as always, now we can officially call him one of the hosts, but first and foremost, the existing host of Nightlife, our chairman and president, Adrian Portage. Adrian, thanks for taking the time out again to come back to Nightlife for 2022.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, listeners. It's good to be back for another year of the Nightlife. We missed you all so much, and I know that there was great feedback. So we promised to come back bigger and better. We got some great people coming on the show, and look forward to some live Nightlife during the season. And I think so stay tuned. I won't give too much away at the moment. Let's crack on.
And now, as I said, he was a co-host and a guest for so many weeks there last year, but now he's joined as a host. Will be with us on a weekly basis, our football director, Jimmy Galagotis. Jimmy, back for Nightlife in 2022.
Yep, exciting times. 2022, here we come. Just a shout out to our listeners at Newmarket or New Farm.
Welcome everyone, boys in blue.
We love you, Brisbane City.
Always a favourite.
Great to see that they've come back into the NPL. Actually, great to see that they've won a title, even though it's the FQPL title. I think that's a pretty small type of title for a big club like that. And I think in all honesty,
if that doesn't get them talking,
they'll be looking at probably the Classico this year and probably the coffee cup against Olympic. They're the sort of titles that they're looking to, obviously,
Yeah, so we've told Jimmy to be a bit more sprightly this year and less diplomatic and more sprightly with his statements. So,
I mean, at the end of the day, last year.
Let's go! Come on!
Last year wasn't the best year for us at Gold Coast Knights as well. So let's just hope that can be turned around.
Terrible year, Mark.
Moving forward, but a new breath of fresh air at the Knights. And as you said, Adrian, just for our listeners out there, we are looking at, this is the first podcast of the year, which is going to be pre-recorded, but our hope and our aim is to hopefully get it up and running live each week to take your questions as we go. A lot of people said they want to see the beautiful faces of Adrian and Jimmy live, so we might have to give the people what they want. But let's get straight into it. 2022 season was about to start. It's raining at the moment. Football Queensland suspends all fixtures for the weekend. We were scheduled to go up and play Logan at Logan. But let's talk a bit about the pre-season and the changes made. Obviously, that major change, Scott McDonald taking over the ranks as head coach, and then the recruitment of players has been relentless. A lot of big players coming into the Gold Coast Knights, a lot of players leaving the Gold Coast Knights. Adrian, you addressed the players last night in the first official dinner heading into the season, and it was a different type of buzz that we all noticed there.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to see the camaraderie amongst the boys. That they were doing the Croatian goodbye, hugs and pats and kisses and all that sort of stuff, which is good to see. That you can see it's a different feeling around the club, not just within the playing group, but around the club. New direction this year. New things that we want to achieve and have a red hot crack. Every year that we've been in the NPL, it was a tough decision to enter the NPL, as everyone knows. But it was a decision made to make sure that we could compete with the best. And if you want to be the best, you've got to compete with the best.
Jimmy, as a football director, now that cohesiveness, what we're trying to get to at the club with the NPL Academy, some great kids, great teams there, which we'll get your insight on later on. But then, seeing the senior setup flourish at this point in pre-season with that camaraderie. I know it's still early days, you don't win anything in pre-season, but it's a much better positive outlook heading into this year compared to previous.
Yeah, it is. It totally is, and it's a new beginning. It's a new dawn, so to speak. We brought in a young coach from a professional background. He's setting really high standards within our club structures. The players are fully on board with it. The camaraderie is excellent so far. So we're really looking forward to a really strong year this year. And one of the big things for me that Scott's brought to this club already is accountability. And accountability within all our ranks and accountability of our players, our structures and what we want to work within. So for me, again, we're really excited to see how this team progresses. And I think it's, they've got an opportunity now to write some of their own history at this club.
Yeah.
So we're really looking forward to it.
Definitely. Adrian, this one's probably more tailored to you. I At the end of last season, we started announcing the departures of the club. We didn't announce all our signings until later on. A lot of people were looking at it going, will anyone end up playing for the Gold Coast Knights? Tell the viewers and then the listeners what goes into the thought process at the end of the season, and especially this year with Scott already been appointed before the end of the season. What went into that process of retention and recruitment?
Well, look, we sat down, after Pozza stood down from his role last year. We had a bit of a reflection as to which way we wanted to go, and a decision was made not to rush a coaching appointment, but to put the feelers out and see what we could come up with. And it was clear we had some very strong candidates, and it was humbling. It was a humbling experience. Poz and I were scratching our heads with some of the approaches that we had, but the main one stood out for us, and that was obviously Scott. Scott made it clear. We actually spoke to Scott early in 2021, the start of the season, as to whether he'd be ready and whether he wanted to go up the coaching ranks, and he couldn't make the commitment. And it just so happened to be that at that time he said, I'm ready. And we obviously fielded a few candidates, and we just liked what Scott brought to the table. Scott brings a fresh element and energy to the game, and particularly here in Football Queensland, NPL, because you just look at the coaches, that are around, particularly in the top four. They're all known quantities. You know what you're going to get with Ben Kahn. You know what you're going to get with Symes. You know what you're going to get with the Penn Power coach, and you know what you're going to get with Gray Piddick. And it just becomes too regimented and too structured, whereas you can already see the way that Scott plays and the way we've been approaching some of our trial matches. It's definitely catching people off guard. Our defence, we spoke about our woeful defending last year. And look at how we're performing. Other than the second half to Lions last week, I don't think we've conceded a goal in 3 or 4 games, and that was against the likes of Power, Newcastle Olympic, Brisbane Roar, and we only conceded 2 in the second half against Lions with the young back line.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, looking at some of those signings at the back, Janiel Da Silva coming up from Altona Magic in Victoria. Tyson Martin, Brisbane City boy, who's come across the Gold Coast Knights and made an immediate impact. And a lot of new faces that maybe the Knights fans haven't seen. Jimmy, from your perspective, some of the names. You've seen them come in, you've seen them play, you've spoken to them socially. How have you seen those new signings fitting in with the current squad?
Oh, listen, I think we've picked accordingly to obviously the game plan and the structures that Scott wants to obviously activate within the program. So for me, the most important thing is, these guys are semi-professional, but their willingness to learn and the willingness to understand, what the principles of play are. It's very prevalent, and you can see it already. So hats off to all of them. They've done a great job. They've worked tremendously hard through the pre-season. And again, we talked about last year through the podcast. We were lacking game plan principles last year. You can see now that Scott has implemented already through our pre-season the structures of how he wants to play within our back line, our midfield, our attacking third, and the players understand it because they've had a really good full pre-season with that. So again, like we keep on saying, we're really excited. So I think we're going to catch a few teams off guard this year.
I think one thing to note, and I've seen it from a different angle with Scott, is the buzz around the NPL Queensland community and journalists alike in a national stage. I've been a bit of a buffer, a bit of a PA for Scott in that aspect, where a lot of journalists want to speak to him. And I think, I said this to Scott as well. I believe that focus, a lot more focus is on Scott, and the players can just go and do their thing. And always players were in the spotlight in one aspect that pressure was on them, but now they can just go and do what they want to do their craft and perform at the best. So I think that buffer between players and that media per se and the judgment is going to make a big difference for them heading into the season. Adrian? Yeah,
for sure. And I think Jimmy's hit it on the head. The buzz and what Scott wants, and the player recruitment's been fantastic. To deliver something that's going to catch teams off guard. And but it's filtering through. It's filtering through to our juniors, to our younger NPL sides, and you know, the coaching staff are loving the vibrancy of the club. And we needed to freshen up. We needed to break the shackles of the years gone by and take a new approach. And you know, it was a good thing for us. You know, you can either stick with the true and tried method and stick to defensive football and stick to, you know, names and people like that within this football environment. But you know, Scott's made a conscious effort to try and pull from outside of the Football Queensland net. And it is hard, you know, it's Queensland. It's very hard to get players to come to play in Queensland, but we've succeeded, you know, with Mirza, Christian Braimora coming, Janiel, as you rightly point out, you know, Pasquale coming from Toowoomba as an Italian to come to and wanting to play in senior competitive football. It's good to see.
And he's definitely going to be one, I think, that will have an immediate impact. His impact off the field has been tremendous, I know. Great banter, he's great around the room, and I'm sure on the field he'll even match it. Just in the early goings there, from what I've noticed. But you know, in one aspect, you know, this is more tailored to you, Adrian. Did you have any doubts about this? You know, not this current squad, but at the end of last year, were there a lot of question marks raised in your perspective heading into this season? What to do? What the direction of the club might be after, you know, a season that, as you said, there wasn't as you expected.
Look, the club stuffed up. So the accountability and responsibility rests with me, first and foremost. We made some poor decisions last year. We made decisions on the understanding that we were doing the right thing. You know, we didn't want to rush after Gray Pittock to go and get another coach immediately. And, you know, Pods and I, we made the decision to take the time, try and steady the ship, get to a position that enabled us to be in the position that we are in today. So we made, you know, whether we put Pos there for too long and whatever else, that's, you know, that's hindsight's a beautiful thing. But at the same time, we weren't ready. You know, Scotty wasn't ready. Coaches that, you know, the league was still active. Coaches and the good coaches won't commit to discussing anything with you in the middle of the season.
And contractually, there's some of them aren't.
And contractually, but ethically, you know, contracts one, ethics is another. Ethically, they were true to their clubs, and I commend those coaches. You know, because Poz and I did. We try and canvass numerous options, and the decision was fairly easy once you know, discussions did begin. But really, the club itself needed to have a good hard think about what it wanted to do and what it wanted to achieve. And you know, and I think what the light bulb moment was for me, and not much has been said about this. Is the restructuring of the football pyramid in Queensland. You know, we've now adopted a football pyramid where Tallabudgera Tigers, if they wanted to and they were ambitious enough, could be playing NPL football in 4 years' time.
Yeah.
You know, in the last couple of years in the NPL, you needed an NPL license. It was a closed shop, and there wasn't much there. You know, there was not much incentive to perform. Now there is. Yeah. You know, and there are a lot of aspirational teams in Football Queensland. You know, Surfers Paradise want to make moves. You're looking at Rabina talking about making moves. Rochdale Rovers, Caboolture, Albany Creek, all of these clubs that will threaten the existence of some of the NPL clubs. Yeah. And it's either kill or be killed in that land, and that's what football needs. It needs at this level. It needs that level of competition
and accountability at the end of the day.
And accountability. Parents want to know what they're paying for. You know, they want to see clubs trying. They want to see their kids developing. Yeah. And if you're not doing those things, then they'll find a club that is doing those things.
Jimmy, you've seen the football pyramid and development in your time in the NPL, with Gold Coast City, Olympic, and so on and so forth. The changes that have happened since those first initial years of the NPL. Do you think that the football itself, the pyramid, the structure as it is right now, has finally reached where it should have been, you know, years ago?
Yeah, obviously, because we've taken on the process of what the world has, you know, works with. So, for me, it was inevitable, and rightly so. It's been done, which is good. Now, you know, the junior program's been decoupled to the senior program. Any senior team, you know, if they've got aspirations to obviously play at the highest level, they'll start going for it. But at the same token, you know, this structure as well has now put, you know, teams on notice that you have to be compliant, you have to have your coaches compliant, you've got to have your facility compliant. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into being part of, an NPL program.
An elite setup at the end of the day. It's not just what you can put out on the field, is it? It's not about the 15 or 16 players.
It's not, no. But and at the same time, like you just have to look at the success of the clubs that are in the top four. You know, you have to be a community club. You have to be an NPL club. Now that these rules have changed, you know, previously, and we've had internal discussions about this and numerous arguments and ways in which we want to proceed it as a club. You have to offer programs across all football spectrums. You know, from walking football, you know, all the way through now to competitive senior men's. Otherwise, parents will vote with their feet. Yeah. So you need the best coaches, and to have the best coaches, you need to have the income. To have the income, you need kids. Yeah. And you know, it's a waterfall effect. You're not going to get the best coach at your club if you're not offering programs that are going to facilitate that coaching. And if you don't do it, someone else will.
And you did mention programs. We'll go into those a bit later. But one thing I do want to touch on, which was a massive moment for the club, it was the FFA Cup fixture here against Melbourne Victory. What a moment. We were all here in attendance, about 2,500 people as well. A lot of different situation. Game got initially cancelled, which we won't really dive into too deeply. But, you know, nevertheless, having Victory here, who ended up winning the FFA Cup, what a massive accomplishment for the club. Adrian, you must have watched that out there in the 120 minutes, considering new squad, new coach, completely new setup, and being proud of how far the club has come in your time.
Yeah, you have to say what Scott managed to achieve within the 4 weeks from, you know, we got belted by Gold Coast United. I think we would have been beaten against Tweed Valley Kings, would have touched us up 4-0 that day too. We were a broken club, broken team. You know, it's
a lot of doubt over a lot of players.
Lot of doubt over a lot of players. Self-interest and motivation wasn't there, and to within a space of 4 weeks, an injection of new blood, new players, new competition. You know, jostling for spots. You know, we put on a show. You know, we matched them. You know, mid is our last kick of the game. You know, if he got over the ball a little bit more, you know, we're into penalties. Yeah. So that's what's so good about that experience, and I guess that breathed new life into the club. You know, I think that game could have gone 2 ways, and as you know, Mark and Jimmy, you know, we were looking to not play it. We were looking to just forfeit the game and push on, but we made a decision to play the game in the interests of football on the Gold Coast. You know, how often do you get a Melbourne Victory
at a local ground? At
a local ground, playing for competition points. Yeah. You know, playing for silverware.
Massive.
Never. It's you know, and to have that here and to put that on for the Gold Coast, you know, it's embarrassing. I've said this many a time over the many years. It's embarrassing that A-League clubs come here, they don't get any publicity, and then they play behind closed doors on the Gold Coast. So rather than waiting for Gold Coast City Council, who offer this sport no support, and they don't offer the support at that senior strategic level. You know, we have to take matters into our own hands, and thankfully we're a private venue and we can do what we want here. To be able to facilitate the likes of Melbourne Victory coming here. So,
lighting being the big one.
Lighting being the big one.
Massive. We're looking outside now. 660 lux across.
660 lux, yeah.
A minimum across, in some areas even 1,000 lux. Unbelievable, really. That.
Yeah, and it's good, and we need that for football, you know. And you know, we didn't do that through grants. We didn't do that through the support of Football Queensland or Gold Coast City Council. You know, we did that privately, and we did that for the benefit of the game and for the people that are football starved on the Gold Coast. You know, if they want to go watch Western United or Brisbane Roar, well, they can't. It's disgusting, and people wonder why the game's dying. It's dying because people can't watch it. Yeah. They just can't watch it. You need 4 subscriptions to watch Champions League, English Premier League, the A-League. You need 4. Who's got money for that? No one. Yeah. Cool. But it's a money-driven world, you know. Yeah.
Jimmy, coming down though, you know, you ended up on the bench in the end to help out there, but you know, seeing that crowd, that atmosphere, that buzz around that whole day in preparation.
Two losses in a row for Jimmy sitting on the bench, by the way. So
he's done.
He's been sacked.
He's done.
Harsh.
Sacked.
Done from the bench.
Very harsh. Very harsh.
But how good was it sitting on that bench, looking at that crowd, and experiencing that whole atmosphere of an FFA Cup, you know, round of 16 clash?
Oh, listen, it was extraordinary. In all honesty, it just shows me, and it should show the club, and it should show Gold Coast football lovers that we are a proud community of football, and for to get 2,500, dare say, if the game wasn't postponed the week earlier, we'd probably get maybe 3,000 to 4,000. So it was, for me, it was a really touching moment, because I think it brought light to what we're trying to do with our football program into our community, and everyone's now starting to understand that there's a new way of doing things at this club. New coaches, new methodology, new principles, and new understanding that this club needs to be community orientated and community driven as well. So for me, like I said to you at the start, and I'll keep saying it all year, we've got a massive opportunity as a football program to unite a whole community, and hopefully we can do that in the months and years to come.
Speaking about community, we'll touch on a few little programs here and there. Mini Nights, my favourite program of the nights this year. It's for a little 5s, 6s and 7s, kicked off with a bang. A lot of kids, a lot of smiling faces, one of many programs. We've also got the local under 8s and under 9s, 2 teams playing now in local competition. And the big one, the big announcement coming out early January, late December, was the introduction of a QPL 4 team. Knights going back into that senior local space in what was formerly known as the Coast League. The journey, Adrian, when you took over in 2016, began in that level, and now we return there with a lot of Croatian faces, a lot of more of the boys, local boys, who haven't had obviously the opportunity and maybe the skill set to play in the NPL, but that's been very positively received, and just a big shout out to Marko Vidakovic, Sharky, who's managed to get that up and running. It's great to see.
It is. It's good to see that, and we're trying. It's a commercial decision. When we decided to leave the Gold Coast Premier League, it wasn't an easy decision for us, but it's a commercial decision, and to have juniors, and at the time, no one wanted to be a junior at the Knights. There was no. We couldn't attract juniors to this club. We're wedged between Magic United and Nerang Eagles, and we couldn't break the shackles of those programs that were in existence at the time. So now that we're in a fortunate position through the NPL and the requirement that once was in the NPL to have junior teams, the position gives us now the ability to introduce community football back to the Croatian Sports Centre, and give us an ability to push forward with those programs. And one of the things that we discussed with Jimmy at the start, when we wanted to map out what we were going to do, is we wanted to map out exactly how do we go forward, rather than just being another first team type of football club, which the NPL now allows for. Yeah. So if you want to be a surface with no juniors, you can be, or if you want to be a Rabina, for instance, you can be too. And I think if you look at the success of the models of Power, Lions and Olympic and Moreton Bay and Sunny Coast Wanderers, you need to be everything to everyone, and you need to manage it and have clear lines of income stream and clear lines for accountability, and that's what we're working towards now. This is our opportunity, because the state pyramid is now what the football Gold Coast pyramid once was. Yeah. So that's the daunting thing, because out of this process, which is what Football Queensland want, clubs will die, clubs will have to merge, and only the strong will survive at that top tier. Yeah. And that's the reality of this. And to be frank, I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's going to become more of a regional style approach at that highest level. I've said it for multiple years. Those that know, in 3 to 5 years' time, I don't think it'll be the clubs that have the most resources financially probably that will survive. It'll be the ones that have the most green space and ability to work with other clubs to move forward. That's going to be the key. But on that QPL 4, to both of you, I hear that there's rumblings that, Jimmy, you're coming out of retirement to feature in some games, and ads you might make a guest appearance in centre midfield. True or false? Can we put the...
Look, false for Jimmy. I think Jimmy's waiting for walking football to come to the Croatian Sports Centre.
I think it's going to be a flagship.
I can't wait for that.
I think Jimmy's the face of walking football in Queensland. Yeah. and
Actually, no. I'm actually going to come out of retirement.
Is
Just because of that statement right
just
there.
he's going to play.
Out.
I think against Surfers Paradise crunch
I'm
game.
to show you all what it's all about.
Jimmy's going to come in and hold the line like a midfield general that he is. But look, it's good to see the QPL4. You know, it is. You know
And might I add for all our listeners, a bit of a scoop. Out of the 10 home games that QPL4 is scheduled to play, 7 will be played at the same time, or the same day, should I say, as the NPL. So that creates a massive Super Saturdays, festivals of football here at the Croatian Sports Centre, where everyone will be here playing football, and to think of how far Gold Coast Knights has come in such a short, limited space of time, to get to where we're going to be getting to on game days is just something that I don't think, you know, anyone in their wildest dreams could have imagined. Adrian, you have wild dreams of nights in the past. Did you ever envisage this? Did you ever envisage the fact that, you know, we'll be back in the community space, We'll have community juniors, we'll have all the juniors in place and all be together here playing from 8:30 in the morning till 8:30 at night?
Well, look, I think we planned, how do I say this? I think for the survival of the Croatian Sports Centre and where its future lies and its patronage and I guess, patronage from the Croatian community, but also from the wider Gold Coast community, it has no choice. It has no choice but to accept and grow its program to ensure there are more bodies here at this venue, and not just between the hours of 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. But as you say, from 8 o'clock in the morning all the way through till 8 o'clock at night. It needs to be 7 days a week. You know, this is a venue that's very unique on the Gold Coast. It's not a government-run venue. It's a privately owned venue. It's owned by the community. And this venue gives us an ability to do a lot of things that others can't do. So yes, it's probably happened a lot sooner. Thanks to the football pyramid changing, you know, we have to survive, and to survive, we need to introduce these programs. And you know, the whole setup of what we wanted to do with the Magic Group, with the feeder club situation, where there was a player pathway through Magic United into the Gold Coast Knights, it served a purpose. But now it doesn't. It disadvantages Magic United. It disadvantages the Gold Coast Knights because it doesn't allow the football program under the new scenario and under the new structure for both clubs to flourish. And unless both clubs merged, it's hard to see it working. And particularly when you can see movement within the football Gold Coast landscape from some of those ambitious clubs.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, and you know, I've had a lot to do with the community clubs on the Gold Coast locally over the years. And what I've noticed is, as soon as the football pyramid was announced, and previous to that, everyone thought that, you know, Butte, NPL, everyone can do it. It'll be such a great thing to do. Then they said, okay, the football pyramid's changing. We can go climb the ranks. And now the more I've spoken to clubs, and Jimmy, you have as well in this point, a lot more clubs are looking at it and going, well, we think our height and our level will be QPL or QPL2, or maybe we're just going to be a QPL3 club for the remainder of our time. And that's where we want to grow in our club in that space. We want to be a social club per se and not have the elite. And then, you know, in that juggling act, I think has made it my concern, and it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts, is what happens if there's not that much appeal in 5 to 10 years time at that highest level because of the costs of running an NPL program? What happens in that aspect where, you know, clubs go, you know what, we don't want to invest in coaches, we don't want to invest in the best facilities or gear, and opt not to play in the highest level?
Well, it's a serious concern. It's a real concern, and the track record of Football Queensland and Football Gold Coast and other football affiliated bodies prior to the footballing body merge had no consistency. You know, we're an NPL club, and what if you look at our initial contract for what we signed up for and what we've been paying, it's been redundant. It was redundant within the first 7 months. We hadn't even finished the season and the rules had changed. In the first year, the second year again, and now here we are. We're not even through. I think we're into our final year of a fourth year of So there's
final
still
year of contracts.
Final year of contracts, and we've had 3 iterations of what top flight football looks like in Queensland. So, are your comments valid and could they crystallise? Of course they could. There will be business models and people like Pozza's very strong on this view, and I can see why. Is there a market for that? Do parents really want to be paying that type of money? Or do they just want good coaching, good environment, and not have the pressures and stress of the fees and the travel? Yeah. You lose a good part of your day. Not to mention school sports as well, and the commitments that school places on. Yeah, other kids.
There's multiple factors.
So look, it's a serious concern, and maybe Football Queensland have forecasted that by making this a senior only type football pyramid. Maybe they forecast that. It's a long way for Sunny Coast to travel every second week. It's a long way, for Toowoomba if they get back into the top flight. Magpies.
Now they're in QPL, and now you're expecting QPL clubs.
Yeah.
To go to Mackay.
So it's a tough one, and look, and that's why you have to be, as a club, you have to be as flexible, as agile, as an everything to everyone type club, so you can sandbag yourself against that type of risk. If you put all your eggs in the NPL basket and say that you're a player pathway, mate, you're doomed to fail. Yeah. This new structure doesn't reward clubs for just being an elite football pathway. It doesn't. Yeah. It rewards ambitious clubs who may have a financial backer for 3-4 years, and then after that get stiff of the politics and just waters back down.
Yeah. Jimmy,
it also, at the end of the day, we need to understand one thing, is that to be a success in football these days, you can't just be strategically placed to just, for example, be in the NPL or be servicing the talented pathway program players at the end of the day. So we've got a fantastic facility here, an amazing facility here that's underutilised at this particular moment. Yeah. And we need to look at that, and look at what models are working outside of our own model. And obviously there's one that stands out clearly in Queensland, and that's Lions FC. They've got obviously amazing setup at Richlands, but they don't just do the talent and pathway program. They are all about community. They're all about engagement in schools, Masters football. The spectrum of what they do in football, is massive. And that's the reason why they're highly successful now, because they've been doing it for so long. They've been growing those programs every year, and now they've got to a point now where they are the #1 club, in Queensland, and probably dare say maybe even Australia. For the way they operate. They engage in community. They give out free T-shirts to schools and things like that, and just. It's fantastic to see, and this is what we need to do as a football program, especially we're in a regionalised area on the Gold Coast. We're part of 2 NPL licenses. NPL for me is just 3 letters at the end of the day. What do we stand for as a football club, football program? How can we galvanise a whole region together? How can we get 2,500, 3,000 people coming to our home games? How can we then become members of our clubs, and how can we participate through their structures, their programs? How can we go in there and help them as well? So that for me is where we're, our next body of work, so to speak, in football. That's where we need to be.
No, definitely. And I think, for our viewers, I keep saying viewers, they're going to be viewers soon when we go live, but for our listeners out there, there's going to be some things being announced in the coming days regarding that, Jimmy, that you put a lot of work in behind the scenes with Adrian's approvals and all the rest of it, where we are going to start bridging that gap and putting our footprint into the regional community on the Gold Coast, because that is what we're here to do. We're here to be that face of the Gold Coast in that highest level and move forward from there. But moving on to another topic, a lot of buzz in the last couple of days regarding the championship, B-Leagues, all the rest of it. Adrian, you've said time and time again about B-League and that second tier underneath the A-League, that wasn't something the Gold Coast Knights would be interested in or looking at. After recent developments and all the talk, what's your thoughts, firstly, on the movement, and secondly, where Knights sit in that whole system?
Well, look, my views are firming. My views are firming more and more as the months go on, and we see this play out. And I'm going to be a cynical pundit here and say this: when the FFA Cup was going into the throes of the round of 32, the round of 32 featured serious NPL clubs from around the various states and territories, let's say. And Football Australia called the Gold Coast Knights and asked the Gold Coast Knights, would we be willing to be the host venue for an NPL club if it drew an A-League club? So just to be clear, if a Sydney, not saying it's from Sydney, but just say a Sydney club or a Melbourne club or someone like that draws an A-League team, they weren't prepared, due to the financial costs, they weren't prepared to host that game. Would we, as the Gold Coast Knights, be willing to carry that financial burden and profit from that fixture? Now, if Football Australia is suggesting that, to not only take it out of a state, take it away from a club, but take it out of a state, I have to say that the B League is doomed from the beginning. And if there's no money for one-off games like that, after those states have been football starved, for that matter, it's a serious concern. And you just have to look at how it's going to work, and
because A-League's not working.
The A-League's not working. That's a
understand
podcast for another day. But
putting the B League in though, when you have that A-League.
Well, this is where my cynicism comes into it. My view is Jamie Johnson will fold to the views of the AAFC. He'll bring in, and we had this chat, as you know, last night. He'll bring in the B League now that the A League has paid the FFA money to bugger off from it. He'll bring in the B League to undermine the A League, and the B League will come in. Certain clubs will pay more money than other A League clubs to pull that talent away from that competition, because they're effectively two rival competitions. There won't be promotion relegation. That's not going to happen for years and years. So they're essentially two separate competitions. And what's going to happen is the A League will ultimately fold. And if the A League
won't be as strong as they could be, because they'll be split.
They will just fold. They will fold. They will ultimately both fold. But you just have to look at Wellington Phoenix. They couldn't play. They had to play behind closed doors because they had no match day sponsor. Like, if that is the state of our league.
Playing Melbourne Victory as well.
And playing Melbourne Victory, you're right, that's right. So if that's a state of our competition, whilst we're paying Socceroos to draw 2-2 in Oman against Oman, and my views on paying the privileged Socceroos, then there is something fundamentally flawed with our game. We have to charge the fees. People say, your fees are too high. Well, what am I supposed to do? I've got to pay Football Queensland to employ 70 odd staff, maybe more, and then I've got to pay insurances. And now Football Queensland's told us that Gower and Gates won't insure camera towers, so clubs now have to go find their own insurance for camera towers. Like, what is going on here?
That is a requirement for you to be an NPL to film games.
Yeah, but my insurance with FQ doesn't cover that.
Yeah.
So what's next? What else am I not going to be covered for? And who's going to burden that cost? The parent. So look, the B League is a great thing for about 8 clubs, and those 8 clubs are predominantly Sydney and Melbourne based, and all you have to do is follow the leader, and the leader, as Jimmy rightly points out, on and off the field, is Lions FC. We're massive admirers at this club of what they do, and for them not to even participate in the AAFC chat, for them to not even participate in the inaugural licensing of the Football Queensland NPL, speaks volumes about how they conduct their business. And I tell you right now, and it was interesting for our listeners, it was interesting to see on the final AAFC document, the Gold Coast United signature was missing. So maybe Gold Coast United have come to the realisation that there is no future there either. So I don't know. Look, I think we're in for some interesting times. Our game thinks it's a lot better than what it actually is. And until we can rid ourselves of self-interest and run like an AFL organisation, we cannot compete in this sporting landscape. Yeah. We just cannot. And we are a rich person's game. Only the rich can play football.
Which is very different to the rest of the world.
which is very different to the rest of the world, and it's different, you know. And Scotty McDonald, you know, listening to Scott last night, he had great views on this last night when we were talking about it. You know, the American structure is set up differently, and how they operated and financed their programs and coaching and all of that sort of stuff. Whereas here in Australia, it's, you know, you're at the mercy of financial backers, such as me, that has to have an unconditional love for the sport, and you have to query, like, if we start introducing clubs, what major sponsorship are we going to get? If the A-League can't attract it, how the hell is the B-League going to attract it? And is it only going to... So are we going to see a Delphi Bank only back South Melbourne? Why doesn't it back the league? Are we going to see Boca Windows back the league, or are we just going to see them back Sydney United? Yeah. You know, who's going to back it? You know, if we can't... If Boca Windows and a Delphi Bank won't back the major competitions, and I'm not disparaging them, but I'm just saying... Where are you going to get the money to fly these people? Where are you going to pay? Where's the talent pool going to come from?
There's innuendo and gossip about it all, but
I think it's a good
there
move.
hasn't been anything that's been put down in paper to say this is how much it's going to cost. This is the running of the league. This is what it's going to be. This is your contracted players, what they need to have, what it needs to be, how much they need to get paid, etc., etc. How does that work within the NPL confines as well?
How did it work back in the day in the NSL though, Jimmy? For our listeners who may not know about that setup, you obviously, you know, from Melbourne, you've seen that setup. I don't know that setup.
It was all cultural identity that drove it.
Yeah.
It was the Scots versus the English versus the Greeks versus the Massos versus the Crows versus the Serbs.
That element's gone.
It's gone. Of course, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone to a point. But maybe it hasn't left Melbourne and Sydney. But don't forget, the NSL died. It wasn't taken away from them. It died. And why are we not producing players? I don't think it's got anything to do with NSL or the A-League. I think it's got to do with the Australian Institute of Sport and government funding and the lack of it. But to think about a B-League competition as a Queensland club, it doesn't work. No. I saw on the document a $200,000 license fee. A $200,000 license fee straight off the bat. Yeah. So I get it. A Delphi Bank will give it to South Melbourne, no problem. Boca will probably give it to Sydney United and all of that, and they will be resourced. They will be well resourced and well financially healed. But for how long? You know, how long does a Sydney United and these clubs, like, if they're fighting for relevance, which is the concern, like with these ethnic clubs that were powerhouses, if they're fighting for relevance, you know, why aren't there supporters and sponsors backing them in their leagues?
I look at it like this. If you look at, you know, the AFL's an anomaly, but in rugby league, there are a lot of clubs in the NRL that are propped up by the NRL themselves. They're not independently run. They're not backed financially.
But they've got leagues clubs. You need to understand.
Some of them do, but some don't. You know, and the NRL have salvaged those clubs to remain in the competition.
Yeah, but don't forget.
I don't think the FA is going to be prepared to do that.
But don't forget, Peter V'landys doesn't pay a rugby league team to go to Oman to play the Omani rugby league national rugby league team.
Exactly right.
Whereas the Socceroos are forever in qualification for either the Asian Cup or the World Cup, and that's one of the, you know, the pitfalls of being in Asia is the travel and the amount of consistent competition. You know, and I just think as a B League, for B League, I just cannot see, if the A League model is failing, if the A League model is failing, and nobody can say that it's not.
There's no promotion, no relegation, you're guaranteed your licence year in, year out. You've got the monopoly in regions such as Central Coast, Newcastle, Brisbane. The Raw have the whole of Queensland. And realistically, the closest club is Central Coast.
It is, yeah.
That's a long distance. Way. Like Coffs Harbour is as close to Brisbane as it is to Central Coast Mariners in Gosford, correct? Or pretty close? Yeah. 2-3 hours?
Yeah. But, you know, but I don't even think it's...
a massive catchment.
Yeah, but it is a massive catchment, but at the same time, you know, you have to look at some of the owners, like the Bakri Group. They're not short of a quid. You know, they bought Oxford United. They've had massive success over there. They own a couple of other clubs, you know, where they are piling money, and the resources they're giving to Brisbane Roar are nothing, You know, credit to Mooney. Mooney, if he's sourcing players, he's going to do his best to source them out of Football Queensland first, and then interstate, which he's done. But you know, it's suffering. You know, it's not what the public want to see, particularly when you have the strength of the Brisbane Broncos. The Brisbane Lions are resurgent now.
Redcliffe coming.
You know, the Redcliffe, the Dolphins are in the league.
AFL props up Suns to make sure they still stay here.
So look, as much of a armchair pundit that I am on this, and how cynical I am, I don't know what the solution is. I really do not know. If it's not the ethnic clubs, it's obviously now not the Anglo clubs, let's call it, for lack of a better term. You've got these city clubs, your capital city clubs. I don't know what the answer is. And maybe the next step in the reformation of football in this country is the dissolution of the state federations, because you only have to look interstate. There are different rules for Victoria, Football Victoria, as there are to Football Queensland, as there are to Football New South Wales. Yeah. You know, and maybe it's that, you know, we're maybe too many countries with too many self-interests that divert from the good of the game. Maybe
we just don't have enough in resources, funding, exposure to be a full-time professional league at. Well, is that a concept?
We're governed by state governing
bodies
as well.
But is that a concept as well?
We need to understand that as well.
You know,
so, you know, FFA is FFA, but we are governed by FQ. Yeah. And again, do they listen to what they say?
You just have to look, you know, and this is where our game is sad. This is where it's sad. Football Queensland have been part of NPL TV for how many years? Now, look, Football Queensland will give many reasons, and negotiations stalled and couldn't reach a commercial decision. Put that all to the side. The fact that Football Queensland can walk away from what the other major leagues are doing and revert back to Facebook and YouTube, albeit it could be a good thing, just shows you the state of our game and how disconnected we are from one another. Like, the fact that it's taken this long for an app to be formed rather than going through the clunky check-in and login system that was once NPL TV, and now Football Queensland going a different path, it's wrong. You know, like it's terrible, and you know, it doesn't do the game any justice. You know, and look, Football Queensland, I could be well within their rights to have done this, and it's probably going to be better off, because the amount of buffering issues and the lag, and you know, as soon as you get a sprinkle of rain, the coverage is off. You know, you miss last 5-10 minutes of the game, and funnily enough, that's what happened in Victoria last week. They had issues, and they said, oh, you know, technical issues will be resolved next week. Wait till the Victorians really learn the truth about that NPL TV. But the biggest thing is, from that, we've walked away from it, and we're not a united game from that sense. We're kicking off at different times of the year. You know, it's just, for me, it's not. There's no alignment. So if you're a Virgin Australia, and I talk at a corporate level, because that's where our game needs to succeed. At the corporate level, to filter through, to do what NAB does. You know, Commonwealth Bank, for me, the Commonwealth Bank is a missed opportunity. Commonwealth Bank have come into women's football because of the Women's World Cup. That's where their strategic position lies. But what are we doing? What is Commonwealth Bank doing for the women's game in Queensland? It's just a name, and that sponsors the Sam Kerrs of the world. So Sam Kerr, when she plays, gets sponsorship money to play for the Matildas. But what about Shelby, that plays for our under-14 boys? She's a girl. She's definitely a future Matilda, if we don't lose her to another sport. What are we doing to support these kids? Yeah. We expect Jimmy and the coaching staff here to support them, and then in 2 years' time, Football Queensland will give us another direction, because they believe it's in their interest to do so.
I mean, we could sit here and there's so many more, you know, avenues to go down in that aspect, but, you know, I'm sure we have plenty of weeks to go into the depths of all that. Now let's, you know, we've gone for almost 50 minutes now, but let's look back to the Knights NPL first team. You know, let's give our viewers some predictions, not necessarily finishing and who, what, where, but let's give some personal predictions on players and what we think. So we'll start, you know, our first question I have here to both of you. Which new signing do you guys think will have the most immediate impact on the first team squad this season?
Tough one, yeah, tough one.
Adds any
Most impact?
Tough one.
immediate impact on that team?
Christian Brymora,
Yeah.
you can't look beyond him.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Janiel in the back line has given us confidence. It's made Josh more confident as well in the people that stand in front of him. I think Mitchie's a different beast again this year. I think we're going to see a different element to Mitchie that we haven't seen at all at the Croatian
Well, he
Sports
loves
Centre.
structure, and now he's got structure. So
He's got structure, and Scott doesn't preference him. You know,
Yeah.
Scott treats him just like any other player. And I think Tyson Martin. You know, you look at Tyson Martin. Tyson Martin's what has his club lacked the most? Like when you're watching senior football, we know everyone hates us, right?
Mongrel.
We correct. Mongrel has been missing. We know every club hates us. They think every player's overplayed, doesn't deserve to be here, spoiled, mothered too much. You know, and it's the Gold Coast. We're not meant to be good at football down here. So we've missed. I think this is the first year, and I loved Scott. You know, from the beginning, we've set ourselves up to know that we're hated. We're not going to get respect at Capalaba. We're not going to get respect at Lions. We're not going to get respect at Power, but nor do we need their respect.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't respect them or fear them either. And that's what we're missing. And to see Tyson Martin and even Aussie like Austin Ludwig to step up and actually crunch someone and put them on notice. It's a big change for this club. You know, we've been too soft ever since we entered under Gray Piddick's leadership. It's been, you know, pass and bit of ticka-taka, but there's been no mongrel. And as soon as we've seen teams go over us and used to crunch Nicky Panetta, we did nothing. Never ran over, never did anything, never supported the player. So what do? We're scared. We're scared to go forward. Whereas now we're not. We're not scared to go forward, and we're scoring goals, and we're also not conceding goals.
Yeah.
And that harks back to the Knights of the early 2000s, really.
Yeah. I think Pasquale De Vita for me. Goal scorer, I love what he's about. You know, I love that little bit of arrogance that he does have because you need that as a top player.
You know, and Marek had that arrogance when he first started, but that diminished as the season went on because he didn't have the support. There was no other mongrel in the team. Now we have mongrels across every position in the club where they're willing to die for one another.
Yeah.
And you look at last night, as I was saying, they were doing the Croatian goodbye where they're saying goodbye to each other for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think I made a comment to you both last night. I said, look at this. When have we had this?
Yeah.
Probably not since the Alex Morrison days.
Yeah.
You know, players always have to go home because his wife's pregnant or he's got work tomorrow morning or he's doing a night shift. No one wants to leave. They're happy to be here. They're happy to be in their company. And that's the difference. And unfortunately, as embarrassing and sad as that is, you know, we have to be true to ourselves.
Perfect. Well, gents, again, appreciate it. Nightlife back for 2022. Again, it was a shame that we couldn't be heading up to Cornubia Park. Jimmy was scheduled to go there with the kids tonight. Not happening, so we'll have to look forward to Capalaba. Fingers crossed that this rain stops.
Predictions for this year. You forgot to say predictions, Mark.
We can go predictions.
Let's go
if you
predictions.
like.
Quick one.
Take Knights out of the equation because you don't want to think with that Knights hat. So, okay, let's go top four. Obviously, excluding Gold Coast Knights, who are the top four teams in NPL Queensland
So
for
that means
2022.
we're predicting 3 teams. Is that correct?
Remove Knights from the equation.
If Knights weren't in the league, Jimmy,
Who's the top four?
who's your top four?
Probably Lions.
No in order, you can just say.
Yeah, not in order. Lions, Olympic, Penn Power, and we'll throw Easts.
There you go. Ads?
I think Jimmy's thinking too much about QPL4 than he.
No.
But that's all right. Look, I'll give you my order. Now that Gold Coast Knights, I can't tell you where we're going to be. But my order is Lions first, Olympic second by a game. I don't think there's going to be much separating them. I think you've just got to look at, you know, Ben Khan does what Ben Khan does well, and that's recruit good Japanese players. And that's what he's done. He's done that this year. He's got 2 cracking players, and he's kept the bulk of his squad. So they didn't have a bad season last year. He kept they'll be very consistent. Third, I'm predicting Power, but Power. Look, last year when they recruited a lot of the Brisbane Strikers boys, we said, here we go, they're going to come last. They'll be dead ducks. They're recruiting a team from a team that came third last or whatever Brisbane Strikers came that year. And look what they did. They went undefeated for like 15, 16 rounds. So you can't discount them. They've got a great setup there and great culture at AJ Kelly. So third for me, and then fourth is Brisbane City. You know, Brisbane City, not Scotty McDonald. Matt Smith there has got a formidable back line, and you know that in Queensland, back lines win you championships, and that's why Ben Cahn's, I guess, been successful in getting to the big dance. You know, you need to be strong at the back. You need to tighten the leaks, and I think they've got what they probably lack up front. But if Gold Coast Knights aren't in the top four, I think Brisbane City round out the top four.
I'm going with
Big statement.
Lions, Olympic. Shout out to Steve White.
Wow.
Lost his.
Love you, Steve.
Lost his mate at number 6, Phil Lazem, who's gone to Surfers Paradise Apollo. A fantastic, the best number 6 in Queensland. Just putting that statement out there. For the last 4 years.
Who took him there?
We won't talk about that. So let's go Lions, Olympic, Peninsula Power, and I'm going to go for a smoky Gold Coast United to round out in that top 4, excluding Gold Coast
Early
Knights.
sacking.
Is that if Justin Mackay plays every game?
I'm going with Gold Coast United. I think they've recruited well. I think they're going to be hard to beat at Complex.
Early sacking.
And I don't have faith in the others in the competition. Looking at pre-season results, I know you can't dive too much into pre-season, but I just think that with what they've got and playing at Complex is difficult. I think they can make a bigger push this year than they have in the past. So
fair enough.
We'll see how that goes at the end of the day. But
well, I think all will
that's
be
a shocking. That's a shocking prediction, if you ask me. Absolutely balls up.
Well, you know, we could sit here at the end of the season. I could say I told you so. And then what?
Well, that's right. That's true.
East.
Just watch.
Look, I think East a dark horse.
I have a good friendly bet with Scott McDonald, which I won't air. You guys witnessed my bet there with Scott last night, but
just watch.
They've
been in the league now for 3 years. Yeah, they understand what it's all about.
They do.
They've recruited well. They've recruited another midfielder from Penn Power. They've recruited defenders. They've recruited attacking players.
Yeah, you're right.
They're very difficult to break down at home.
They are.
Yeah, so...
They're definitely stronger than what they've been. Look, whether they're top 4, I think Jimmy's on the pipe again. But
probably.
I think...
I think
it's a smoky. It is a smoky.
Same as mine.
Smoky.
Same as mine.
But I don't think you can discount Sunny Coast Wanderers.
I think you can.
No,
you
they've
reckon?
lost a lot of players.
I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe Capalaba in the changing room and the field, which we had a laugh about last night, Jimmy, because one of our senior staff members, Mr. Kresh Beck, was the reason why we were in that changing room and the field was chopped up. So that was a good little coming,
But that's what it is. No, who feared us? Yeah. Nobody feared us. No. Nobody. We were there for the chopping down. So
I'm not going to go there.
But
Jimmy
was chastised
that week.
Yeah, you didn't say much for so long. Everyone said you were quiet, and then you make one comment and people ate you alive.
I know.
It's good. The positive thing out of it is we have listeners, so it's good. It's good to see that Jimmy rattled some cages.
Well, hopefully FQ listened to that as well, and they go down there and do an audit. That would be good.
Don't be asking for audits, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Because we're asking for audits.
I'm still waiting for Gates down there, Jimmy.
We're waiting for audits, and we're going to be spotted by them. But look, that wraps up the first episode of the Nightlife. One thing I do want to mention is memberships. Please, all our listeners, all our Croatian community, we know you guys are lazy to purchase memberships. It's lazy every year, and then on game day,
don't be lazy.
I'm at the front door asking you for your $5. You tell me I want to purchase a membership. Please go on and purchase a membership as soon as you can. Get your personalised membership card, your membership pack. Be part of what we're trying to do.
Big year ahead. A lot of events, a lot of lunches, a lot of, we're basically looked at football now. The 90 minutes is going to be obviously a big part of what we do on Saturdays, but we're trying to create a bigger atmosphere and make the Croatian Sports Centre an entertainment precinct. So we want you to be part of that. You can find all our kickoff times as well.
Yeah, kickoff times are much different as well. A major change 4:30 kickoffs being more family friendly,
Yep.
more people friendly. People don't want to be here at 8:30 at night on a Saturday in the middle of winter. We barely want to be here at those times. So, 6:30 creates a whole different buzz. The dinner, the opportunities that will come up. We want you to be part of our family. We want to bring everyone in. But please, that commitment is major. And, we didn't even have time to talk about it, but Adidas, the kit reveal, for those that haven't seen it, go on and have a look. The jerseys look amazing, off-field apparel, supporters gears, all Adidas. We'll have a streetwear range coming out shortly. It's all moving in the right direction, and Knights we're on our way to become a bigger and better beast for the upcoming season. So, gents, again, appreciate it. Busy schedule. You guys have the weekend off anyway, so never a weekend off for you, Adrian. But Jimmy, you and I, weekend off.
No, there's no week off. It's planning. More planning.
Walking football.
Walking football.
More
Jimmy's going to
planning.
get warm for half an hour for a 15-minute game.
I'd like to invite everyone down here once I put the boots on and go out on the field for walking football, just to see the masterclass.
You just told me
that I
you're
am.
coming out in QPL4.
Well,
in reserve.
It's first steps first.
Okay.
Let's get through walking football.
We
Once-
may see him QPL4 against Service Paradise down here, mate.
Yeah, can't wait.
Under 18s team that
Bring it
QPL4
on.
first grade in Surface
Bring it on.
Paradise. Don't know
Bring it
about
on.
that, Jimmy.
I'll put them all on my back and carry them to the promised land.
I can't wait. All right, guys. Again, thank you to all our listeners out there. This has been another episode of The Nightlife. Coastal Dental Nightlife, it is.
Coastal Dental Care Nightlife back for another season.
Back
Thank
for
you.
another. Thank you to Frank Page and Anthony Pulich from Coastal Dental. You can find them all the way from Sunshine Coast down to the Tweed Coast. Did a lot of work on my missus in the off season. Team at Coastal Dental at Rabina. That'll work on me. So hey, make sure you go and check them out. They'll be sure to look after you no matter which Coastal Dental you do go to.
And actually, just quickly, don't forget to our listeners, if you starved of football action, Brisbane Strikers versus Magpies is still going ahead. It's the only game of the weekend. So
In Mackay.
is it in Mackay?
It's in Mackay.
It's in Mackay. Well, there you go. So it's in
believe.
Mackay. So get up to Mackay and
You couldn't even go there when we were playing there.
get up to Mackay and support your Brisbane Strikers.
Beautiful. Again, this has been the first episode of the 2022 Nightlife, Coastal Dental Nightlife. Thank you again for your listenership, and hopefully you'll see us in a live podcast with our faces to answer all your questions.
Let's go.
In the near future.
Let's go.